Hey everybody, JJ here, and we're back again with another ASUS PCDIY hardware live stream. And we've got quite a number of things to actually jump into today. So hopefully everybody is winding out the week on a positive and productive footing. Everybody's staying safe, staying healthy, and we've got a lot of different things to be able to jump into. Hey Ben, happy to have you here on the stream, man. Thanks as always so much for joining us here. Let's see who else we have going. Michael, always good to have you here, man. Thanks so much. Alex, also great to have you here on the stream, man. Thank you so much. So in terms of new items that we're going to be talking about, we've actually got quite a bit. So as always, we're going to be talking a little bit about some of our ASUS Uefi BIOS releases that we've had over the last week. We've actually got some updates from some partners, including a cool new water block support from EK for our RG Strix Series graphics card, some brand new G-Skill DDR5 memory for those of you that are on the Z690 based platform. Also got actually a pretty good mix of actually new products as well as some updates on some recently announced products. So that's going to include, of course, the brand new RX 6400 series graphics cards. We've got the new PA328 Qv, which is going to be a fantastic mini LED based monitor for those of you that are looking for something that's going to be bold and bright and really kind of be focused for kind of content creation. We've got a really cool mini PC. It's maybe my personal favorite mini PC that we've ever put out with the brand new PN80, which has some really impressive connectivity. It has 15 ports and it supports up to 4 drives. It has the latest generation of Wi-Fi. It's got 2.5 gigabit LAN, and it's a small 2.4 liter based system. So that's going to be pretty sweet. I've got some updates on some other ROG monitors like the PG329Q, which is going to be one of the new ROG monitors in white. We then also have the Pa328QV, which is going to be another PA series monitor that we'll have, and then the TUF Gaming AX3000 V2. Plus, we've got some promos to drop in here in terms of some really great prices if you guys are going to be looking into upgrading maybe a mouse. We've got 2 really good promos right now going on for the Gladius 3 and also for this guy right here for the Curious Wireless. So we'll be talking about actually for both the Curious Wired and Wireless, and for the Gladius, it'll be for the Gladius 3 Wireless and for the Gladius 3 Wired. So 4 really great options that are really going to fit, I think, a huge amount of those of you that are looking for a high quality gaming mouse. So we'll be talking about that in a little bit. And then, of course, we've also got some really awesome submissions that we're going to jump into in terms of the PCDIY Web Builder Spotlight. Always one of my favorite things to be able to go through and touch on so many of the cool kind of gaming builds that we've got here. So let me go ahead and just see who else we've got here. Hey, Erica, fantastic. Happy to have you here on the stream. Thanks so much for joining us. Sue Min, also very cool to have you here, man. Thanks so much for joining us here on the stream. Oh, very cool. While we focus on PCDIY here, it's always really cool to be able to know that we've got users out there on the system side of the fence. So the ROG Strix G17, that's a pretty sweet unit if you're looking for, of course, a high performance gaming laptop. All right, so let's get ready to go ahead and jump into it. First things first, let's talk about some UEFI BIOS announcements. Not too many announcements. I will have a featured post in the PCDIY group, which I'll link in the chat in a moment. The big thing that we've got in terms of this update is probably going to be a couple of updates for some Z690 series motherboards, some actually updates for some of the older TRX 40 and X399 series of motherboards if you're running Threadripper, and then also kind of a mix of some B&H series based motherboards. None of these I would say are going to be super critical, but if you guys are interested in checking out those updates, just make sure to go ahead and check out the featured announcement post, which I'll have up a little bit later in terms of the ASUS PCDIY group. So let me go ahead and link that in the chat for you guys, and that way if anybody's interested, they can check out that featured announcement post once it goes live. So give me 1 second and I will drop that link in the chat. And again, like I said, none of these I would be super critical, so I wouldn't be too worried as far as kind of saying that, hey, you have to kind of update, you need to, apply this UEFI update. It's really, I'd say, more for kind of users that might be specifically looking for certain aspects of improvement. So an example would be like on the Threadripper-based platforms. These actually help to improve some additional performance and some optimizations for the Aura onboard controller. So like when you have an RGB lighting system, one of the things that people don't realize is that there's actually a small little chip that are on our motherboards that controls actually our RGB lighting, and occasionally we'll release firmware to help to improve kind of maybe performance, smoothness, and a couple of other kind of things like that. So if that's something that you're looking for, then you can benefit from that. So let me go ahead and just get this link here in the group for you guys, and we will be good to go. All right, very cool. Hey, Richard, happy to have you here on the stream. Always good to have you here. So, thanks so much for joining us. All right. So, that wraps up our Uefi BIOS announcements. Outside of that, let's go ahead and maybe jump into some of the other cool updates that we have going on for this week. The first one is going to be, let me see right here. So, maybe some partner announcements. Yeah, I think it's pretty cool if we go ahead and jump into some partner announcements. So, let me go ahead and bring this up here. All right. This one's going to be from our friends over at EK. And essentially, they're going to head and release a excuse me, they're going to be releasing essentially an updated block for our ROG Strix series of graphics cards. Some people kind of always ask, like, what are some of the differences in terms of the ROG Strix series and TUF Gaming series? I have some live streams already on the channel. So if you're watching us on YouTube or Facebook, wherever it might be, you can find our on-demand streams where we actually dive into specifically the differences between our cards, like the TUF Gaming series and the ROG Strix series. But one of the key differences outside of things like generally it's going to have higher clock speeds, higher total graphics board power. So it's essentially going to be able to kind of boost a little bit more aggressively, is going to be water block support. So we work really extensively with a wide range of partners for water blocks, not just EK, but that's kind of one of the key benefits that if you're looking to kind of get into water cooling, you're going to generally have water blocks across the board for any of our ROG Strix cards. Whereas let's say for the TUF Gaming series, we might occasionally have water block support, but it's not necessarily always a guarantee. But you'll see right here for the ROG Strix 3070 Ti, there's going to be a block. It's a great looking block. It's got that really nice, clean design aesthetic, of course, that EK has on the Vector 2 series. It's going to be really complementary. And of course, it is in this updated Matrix 7 standard, which allows for just a lot of kind of streamlined, I'd say, flexibility and layout options, as well as also kind of just improvements to kind of, I think, the ease of installation experience. Of course, you've got that nice backplate on there as well, and you're going to be good to go. And of course, it does fully support ASUS Aura Sync. So that means that if you want to synchronize the lighting or you want to have independent lighting control, then you will have that flexibility. It just runs directly to one of the onboard headers. And you'll see right here, you got the pre-order links. So if you guys are interested in picking up a block for the ROG Strix 3070, then you're good to go. Now, keep in mind, it is 100% not a requirement. You do not need to water cool the graphics card in any respect. The Strix cooler that we already have on the ROG Strix 3070 Ti is going to keep it really cool, really quiet. It's going to be fast. Plus, it looks great. It has that really nice adjustable light bar. But again, if you guys are interested in water block support, you'll be seeing this probably in the not too distant future. I would probably expect maybe launch availability, maybe sometime in the middle of about May, but definitely you can make sure to go ahead and also reach out to EK, or, I'll probably do an announcement post in the PCDIY group and I'll tag the EK rep. So if you guys want to ask any questions in terms of availability or anything else like that, then feel free to go ahead and ask. Hey, Sneff, happy to have you here. Thanks so much for joining us here on the stream, man. It's always good to have you here. Hey, Troy, also thanks for joining us here on the stream as well. All right, so next up, let's go ahead and dive into our next update, which I think is actually going to be a pretty cool announcement. One of the things that, of course, we've continually been seeing really since the launch of the Z690 platform has been continued improvements and enhancements in terms of DDR5, and essentially just going to faster and faster speeds, as well as ultimately being able to provide higher and higher densities at faster speeds. Now, it is important to keep in mind that when you do talk about higher essentially operating parameters for memory, as well as in higher density configurations, you are going to also be challenged by the fact that it isn't going to be a guaranteed. You are talking about overclock profiles. So there is going to be some dependency not only in the margin of the motherboard, but critically the CPU. So the thing that's underneath this cooler, that actually has something that's called the memory controller, and the memory controller can vary. And as you go higher and higher in terms of what's called the memory divider, so if let's say you go from like 4800 to like 5600 to 6000 to 64 to 6600 or whatever it might be, it's actually going to have a trail off effect in terms of that. If you had 10 CPUs, take for instance, maybe getting all the way up to around 6000, maybe about 80% of CPUs could hit that memory divider, right? But as you move up to maybe a higher frequency, higher operating parameter, and you keep moving up, then essentially you're going to have a lower likelihood of those CPUs. And that's not a fault of the memory. It's not a fault of the motherboard. It's just part of the reality of overclocking. And there is that margin to keep in place. So you do want to be mindful of this. But one of the really cool things again here is it's just showing the strong validation and partnership, and actually I think the maturity. There's a lot of conversations around DDR4, DDR5, but I can guarantee you I've been, in this game for a long time, and never in 20 years have I seen the type of scaling and maturity in terms of frequencies and operating parameters that we've seen for memory, especially within the first generation. So it's really impressive to be able to see essentially the baseline in DDR5 right now operating at 4800, and now we're essentially already getting kits that you can buy that will be all the way up to, let's go ahead and take a look, and that's going to be 6600 MT at an impressive CL34. That's just a huge, I mean, that's a massive amount of bandwidth. Really impressive in terms of the overall scaling capabilities. You'll see that that is, of course, on this same board that I've got right here next to me on the Extreme. And as always, G-Skill really being a key partner with us in terms of design and validation. You can feel confident with ASUS's interoperability and compatibility on this side. It was actually validated right here. This screenshot right here is 100% done on our Maximus Z690 Hero, which to me is kind of like our foundation enthusiast class motherboard. Outstanding choice for those that are kind of really into kind of overclocking, tweaking, and tuning, whether it's going to be for the CPU or whether it's going to be for the DRAM. But really, really impressive. When you take a look right here, this is going to be a 32 gigabyte kit. So that means 2 by 16, right? And they recently also had a high actually MT 64 gigabyte kit. So that was a 2 by 32, which is even similarly very challenging also on the memory controller. So again, you do want to be mindful of that. But really impressive that you are going to essentially be able to reach, assuming you've got a strong memory controller, DDR5 6600 MT at CL34. That's really, really impressive. So really excited to be able to see that. Let's go ahead and see. We got a question right here. Hey, when is the ROG Chakran X going to be on sale, man? Hey, not sure how to pronounce your name, but hopefully you're doing safe. You're staying healthy, man. Fantastic. In terms of the ROG Chakram X, that's actually the updated version of this mouse that I'm using right here. We should actually be launching that model probably by about the end of this month. I don't know in other parts of the world in terms of the overall availability. I can tell you though, in terms of North America, our release, it's going to probably be around the very end of this month. As we move into May, we should see availability for the ROG Chakram X. So really cool mouse. It's going to have, of course, that brand new ROG aimpoint sensor, 8000 DPI. It's going to have some other really cool enhancements. It has the ROG micro switches that'll support optical and standard mechanical micro switches. It has that enhanced joystick and design in terms of the actual number of buttons that are also on there. So really, really cool mouse. That'll be coming out in the not too distant future. Plus, we're going to maybe have some more mice with the ROG aimpoint sensor coming out later, but can't get into that. So hopefully that answers your question right there. So if you guys are interested in, again, a very impressive high-speed kit of memory, G-Skill is going to be taking care of you, again, with that 6600 MT running at CL34. And while it's not super popular, I know that a lot of people like the aesthetic of memory. One thing that you do want to keep in mind for DDR5 is that if you're kind of on a budget and you want to save a little bit more money, well, a budget, of course, can vary. It could be that you have a small budget or you could have a high budget. But we do have our really impressive AMP memory technology, which essentially is what we've done is we've tested a large number of memory ICs. So the memory ICs are the little chips that you have here on the memory modules. So if we go ahead and maybe take a little bit closer look right here, I can show you exactly what I'm talking about. So give me 1 second right there. So right there, those are your, of course, your memory ICs. There are different types of memory ICs, that are going to be from Hynix, from SK, from Micron. And depending on those memory ICs, the benefit that you're essentially going to have is that we can tune and bypass what's called the voltage limit, the PMIC that's on this memory chip. And we have a technology that's exclusive to ASUS called AMP. So like this kit, operates at 4800 MT, but I can actually have this kit operate at 6000 MT at CL30, I think either 32 or 30 with our AMP feature, which is really great because you can buy essentially a much lower cost kit of DDR5 memory and then just go into the AMP option to be able to maximize that overclocking headroom. Again, it's not 100% guarantee because there's some margin, but I've gone through quite a number of kits and it's been successful. So you do have some nice kind of flexibility in terms of how you want to go about, maximizing your DDR5 experience on your ASUS Z690 series motherboards. All right. Let me go ahead and see if we have any questions right here. Interesting question here from Dax. Says I'm running a video editing rig on a Ryzen 3800X with 128 gigabytes and then one I'm assuming terabyte M.2 drive, and so it rips like a champs, but the thing is a heater, so that's really challenging. You know, Ryzen's actually pretty efficient in terms of its overall kind of I'd say temperatures, but the challenge that you're going to have is that when you really start to load up all of those cores and all of those threads, especially if you're doing something like encoding, then you're going to be producing essentially generally the maximum amount of heat. And there's no real easy way to kind of resolve that. The only kind of option that you have would be potentially using something that's called like Curve Optimizer, but that isn't necessarily available to you on a 3000 series. So you would have to go through and do some form of kind of undervolting. Undervolting could help to bring down the temps. To what degree? You know, it's variable because there's no way to guarantee how much you can undervolt a CPU. It might be maybe, you know, a couple of steps. And if you get a really good CPU, it might be a few more steps. The cool thing is you can play around with this. There are some options that you can play around with in the operating system. You could use Ryzen Master. As one way to kind of achieve this. That is maybe something you can try. You don't know what type of cooling solution. Of course, another option could be you could just upgrade to a better cooling solution. You know, you don't have to go with something like crazy, like a, you know, high-end custom AIO like the Ryujin 2 with a big old screen. If you really cared about kind of the best performance, you could get a simple 240 millimeter you know, water cooling kit from somebody like EK for just the CPU, and it would be less than the cost of a 360 millimeter high-end AIO. And that would definitely be able to keep your CPU really nice and cool if you're really that concerned. But keep in mind, a lot of people kind of get worried when their temperatures start to get into like 85, even 90 degrees. The reality is it's not a concern. The CPU can entirely operate at that you know, temperature sustained for long periods of time. So it's not a concern as long as you're not reaching a point to where the system is kind of shutting down or it's reaching a throttle point, which of course is reducing performance, then you don't have to worry about it too much. But if you're kind of looking for a way to maybe try to tune it down, the easiest option, but it's also a little bit of a tricky option, would be undervolting. Hope that answers your question. Quick question here is how do you think DDR5 latency can go? I'm assuming how low do you think it can go? I don't think it really matters. A lot of people get caught up on latency too much because its latency has always gone up every time you go up in terms of frequency or operating kind of parameters for DDR memory, right? So we went up from when it went from DDR3 to DDR4. And then when we went from DDR4, it went up again to DDR5 because essentially you're just going to have to extend that. And keep in mind that there's other things that come into play like same bank refresh, which is how the memory is actually read and addressed. That is actually something that can be done simultaneously. There's a same bank refresh that's available on DDR5 and that's not available on DDR4. I don't really think it's actually that much relevant, but in terms of kind of really getting tight, you know, I wouldn't necessarily be surprised to be able to see things that get below even CL30, but CL30 already at essentially a high MT value is going to be really, really impressive. And one thing that a lot of people forget, especially in the commentary between DDR4 and DDR5, is that any of the ultra low latency kits that are on DDR4 run exceedingly high voltages. So if you look like a CL14 kit of DDR4 memory, it's operating at like 1.4 to even 1.55 volts. So it has to be heavily binned and then heavily overclocked to even be able to reach those very light timing, those very low timings. Okay. So yeah, you read about, you know, you might want to maybe consider joining our PCDIY group. I have some notes kind of in there that I've put in the past for people that are interested in undervolting. An easy way that you could try it is using the Ryzen Master utility and then just kind of slightly dropping down. You don't have to worry about that it's going to potentially kind of damage your system. You just essentially don't want to be doing any work while you're attempting to do this. You want to kind of treat it as a session that you're going to go through to performance tune and kind of expect that your system's going to crash, because essentially what you're trying to do is you're trying to play within the margin of how the CPU works. AMD defines a specific amount of voltage, but there's generally always a little bit of wiggle room, right? Because they need to account for all the CPUs that get produced. The problem is there's no way to guarantee how much wiggle room you have, right? And how much, you know, it could save you in terms of temperatures. It really depends. I'd say on average, it's probably somewhere between about 5 to 10 C, which isn't that much, but for some people it could be kind of really, really, you know, noticeable, and they might feel that it's really beneficial. Again, I think if you're really concerned about it, then you would probably want to look at maybe a higher performing cooling solution, or maybe, like I said, step into something like water cooling. All right. Hey, Kevin, happy to have you here. Hey, Arvin, also happy to have you here as well. All right, so again, two cool updates from our partners. Brand new ROG Strix 3070 Ti Vector 2 block that is going to be available. And then, of course, that brand new 6600 MT kit at some really impressive latency from our friends over at G-Skill. So two cool things that we have going on there. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at our next kind of round of updates right here. Hmm. I think actually I wanted to, oh yes, I know from a friend of ours, we did have a little bit of an update that we wanted to be able to provide. For some of you guys, you may be aware that there's a very cool kind of show that's coming up right now. If you're not aware, of course, ASUS is already jumping into some live events with getting into packs. And if you're more interested in that, make sure to check out our YouTube channel. We have actually a little announcement video that's on there. But we're also going to be getting ready to actually showcase some awesome stuff at NAB. And the cool thing that we're also going to be doing at NAB is you can actually see that we've got quite a number of promotions for a wide range of different products. And so if you've been interested in maybe getting into some nice high-end kind of the ProArt series products, which are generally going to be our more premium series products, ranging from our motherboards to things like our mobile displays, to, of course, our monitors, you can see you got some pretty cool promotions, 10% discounts over here, $20 off here. So pretty nice range of options. And even while we generally don't talk about our laptops on this stream because we focus on PCDIY, we've actually got some cool promotions also on our laptop line. So I'm going to go ahead and link that in the chat. And you're also going to probably see some cool stuff going off in terms of being shown off there at NAB. That I'm not going to talk about yet in terms of some of the cool new monitors that we're going to be offering. So going to go ahead and drop that in there for you guys as well. Hey, Joseph, happy to have you here on the stream. Thanks so much for joining us. Tefan, always great to have you here, man. Thanks so much for joining us here on the stream as well. Okay. All right, so let's get ready to jump into our next, I think, update. All right, so I think next thing is let's go ahead and talk about some of the brand new hardware that we've gone ahead and launched in the last week or so. So I think the first thing is going to be maybe jumping into some graphics cards. So this is going to be definitely on the more entry side of the fence, right? We're talking about graphics cards that are going to be underneath $200 price point. But I think that especially now that we're starting to see better availability with GPUs and more consistent availability across channel partners, and we're also seeing pricing coming back down as well. We've been really aggressive at working with our channel partners also to try to get that pricing down. I'm really excited to be able to kind of note options like this. So this is going to be an RX 6400, which I know for some of you may not be the most exciting GPU, but it's actually a pretty solid base graphics card. When we talk about the gaming performance, you're going to be talking about a card that's going to be solid at 1080p. Great for anybody that's jumping into esports race titles, so Valorant, CS:GO, Overwatch, Dota 2, anything like that. I love a lot of that kind of like indie and action and platform games, action RPGs, and even titles that are not necessarily the most demanding. So not necessarily something like maybe like Cyberpunk, right? But if you're jumping even to engines that look great but aren't necessarily as demanding, something maybe like Doom Eternal or Forza, then you can have a really solid gaming experience. And the price point is going to be really nice on both these cards. We're going to have actually two versions. We'll have a dual series card, and then we will also offer a Phoenix series card, which is going to be just a little bit more kind of compact, but they're going to both be cool, quiet, support 0 dB operating mode. And the other really cool thing that I like about this RX 6400 is that it doesn't require any PCI power. So a lot of times you have to worry about like how many PCI power connections you're going to have on your graphics card. You don't need to worry about any of those things because there's no PCI power requirement. It's literally going to be powered directly by the PCI Express slot. So you can see right here, this is going to be the dual card. It's got two Axial Tech fans, which have a ring barrier design, which means you get good static airflow, which is going to go across the actual heatsink assembly. It will have two outputs, so you'll have DisplayPort and you'll also have HDMI, including the newer HDMI 2.1 specification. It's got a little bit of RGB lighting on here, and this card also does have a backplate. I think I have some secondary images. Let me see if I got the secondary images right here. Give me 1 second. Yes, I got it right here. Okay, cool. Yep. And this card, I believe, will be coming in at 185. So it'll be a little bit more than the Phoenix card. But you can see right here, here's a some of the kind of images of the card, Axial Tech card design, excuse me, Axial Tech fan design. Both of these cards will be a 2-slot base card, so that means that they're not going to take up a lot of spacing in terms of the motherboard. That also works well if you're maybe going to be considering this for like a small form factor build, which again, nice because it doesn't use any PCI Express power connections. It is produced using our ASUS Auto Extreme production process, which is best process in the industry right now. That essentially just means that we have a robotic system that places all the components onto the graphics card, then does actually inspection and validation to it. There's also some additional aspects in terms of how we actually develop the components that are selected and put onto the cards. This one does come in with a backplate, whereas the Phoenix card doesn't come with a backplate. And as I noted right there, right, you get the HDMI 2.1 and you get the DisplayPort 1.4. All right, so that is going to be the dual RX 6400. So now let's go ahead and take a look at the Phoenix card. And the Phoenix is going to be pretty much the same card, just coming in at a little bit of a lower price point. So let me go ahead and double check. Yeah, the dual is going to be $184.99 and the Phoenix will be $174.99. And you should see both of these pop up in terms of availability probably next week. I'd say in terms of overall next week, in terms of the availability. So this is going to be the Phoenix, still a 2-slot based card. It's going to be a little bit more compact, but overall pretty much the same in terms of the overall, like I said, Z height. So still 2-slot. And both of these cards will still support 0 dB operating mode. So that means that when the card is lightly loaded, so if you're just like watching YouTube videos, streaming, you know, looking at pictures, watching some videos online, whatever it might be, the fan won't even spin. So it's going to be really, really quiet. And you got the dual ball bearing fans, which just means long lifespan. That's going to be superior than kind of your standard single ball bearing or sleeve based fans. Same output configuration with HDMI 2.1 and your DisplayPort 1.4. And again, this card, remember, doesn't have a backplate. So, and there's no RGB lighting. So it's going to be a little bit more simple. So a little bit cheaper, right? If you're looking essentially for a card. So again, nice option if you're looking maybe to upgrade from something really basic in terms of maybe integrated graphics or maybe a much older graphics card. And like I said, you don't have super high demanding kind of gaming needs, right? And let me see if we have any quick questions right there on those brand new RX-based graphics cards. Oh, hey, Kevin. It sounds like a very cool system. Yeah, if you're going with the WRX 80, that's going to be a monster high-end based platform. Really, any one of our PA series is going to be a fantastic option. It just really comes down to the resolution and really kind of, I would say, whether you want whether you want HDR and you want high brightness or you don't. And that's kind of how we have our, I'd say, PA displays base segmented, right? We're going to have monitors that are really optimized to give you an outstanding experience in terms of color accuracy, which is going to be present on all of them. They all have great, robust 6-axis color controls, right? There are going to be some models that, like I said, shift into having a higher class of HDR support with featuring things like mini LED technology. And we're actually going to be talking about one of those today. And then also even connectivity. A wide range of them really actually support an extensive level of connectivity, including multiple inputs. But some will even take things further by incorporating Thunderbolt or special pass-through JZ chain support or things along those lines. So I would kind of evaluate a few of those factors, but I think that the PA329C is a fantastic option for somebody that's looking for a professional series monitor that's going to be color accurate. Yeah. So Ben's asking, would this be kind of similar to 3050 or 3060? Definitely not 3060 class. You're only talking about a graphics card that has 4 gigabytes of VRAM here. Hence, again, why it's really kind of best suited towards something in the, in the class of kind of 1080p gaming. I would say even a 3050 is going to be higher in terms of the overall performance. So this would probably be a little bit closer, maybe kind of 1660, kind of 3050-ish class, like in or around that kind of space is what you would be talking about. But it would probably be a little bit more in that kind of 1600 series class of GPUs. Yeah, if you're looking kind of for a secondary graphics card for just basic troubleshooting, this is the kind of card that I have. I previously, for kind of I'll actually, you bring up a really good point there. One of the cards that I used to use, well, actually, I still have one, is going to be our ASUS Silent series. that I would have because I wanted a card that was easy. I didn't have any PCI power connectors that were going to be on it. And I also wanted to essentially have a card that also had kind of multiple outputs if I needed that. So let me go ahead and see here, ASUS. So this is like an example of one of the cards that I used to use for kind of that troubleshooting, but this one's a little bit nicer because you have even a little bit better performance, right? But this is kind of one of the cards that I used to use right here, the GT710, which is again only it's very, very thin and has 4 HDMI. It's a passive card, so there's no fan, there's nothing that can break. And again, it was also powered by the bus, right? So there was no PCI Express. So I do think a nice basic option if you're just, like I said, looking for something that you can go ahead and test in a couple of different configurations, or like I said, maybe hold you over if you're on a much more limited budget, but you still want to be able to game with it, right? It's 31-inch 4K. We're going to have any new ultra, well, we're going to have, Tefin's asking as far as if we're going to have any new 32 inches. So we have recently launched actually a few 32-inch models. And 4K 144 hertz, we already have that with the PG329 series. So that already kind of covers you in that regard. Okay. So let's go ahead and now take a look at some of our next updates here. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look here at one of our PA series monitors. This is going to be the PA328 QV. So this is going to be a really nice option for those of you that are maybe interested in stepping up to a larger size format. So this is going to be 31.5 inches, 2560 by 1440, so not 4K, but you're going to get all the key benefits that you get with a ProArt series based monitor. So this is going to give you 100% sRGB coverage, 100% Rec 709, outstanding factory calibration in terms of the color accuracy, and a wide range of ergonomics. So you're going to have, of course, the full level of flexibility to be able to do, rotation, you can tilt, you can swivel, all of that is going to be available to you. And in addition to this, in terms of some of the things that sometimes some people don't look at, there are going to be more types of advanced controls for things like color calibration and control. So most monitors usually have a 3-point color access menu. This actually has a 6-axis color menu, as well as you actually have more granularity and control. That's part of what we call right here the ProArt palette. Which you're going to essentially have more options in terms of how you can customize things like gamma, like 6-color access, and many other options, right? You're, of course, going to have specialized presets, of course, that you can toggle between different color spaces, right? If you're going to be working with that. Connectivity is also going to be a little bit, I would say, richer than what you would see on kind of quote unquote a gaming monitor. So you've got HDMI, DisplayPort, and a USB hub. So the USB hub is nice right here because if you actually take a look, I don't know if I have images right here, so let me go ahead and get a little bit tighter in right here. But the cool thing is right here, you see that you've got 2 HDMI ports and, 2 USB ports, and then you also have another set of 2 USB ports. So it's cool because you get USB ports on the side of the monitor and then underneath. So if you want to be able to attach easily something like a flash drive, maybe a web camera, maybe a tablet, scanner, printer, any other type of device, it's flexible because you don't necessarily have to be physically connecting things to your stationary system, whether that would be a laptop or whether it would be a desktop. So that's kind of one of the nice benefits of going to be the ProArt series is generally you're going to offer more kind of rich USB connectivity. You do have our overlay support. So that means that you can go ahead and kind of customize this with different types of options that are going to be tailored to kind of what you might be outputting. Of course, you got the blue light filtering. Here you can, of course, see the wide range of ergonomic adjustment that is going to be available for this monitor as well. And this one is coming in, I think, at a pretty nice price point. I'll double check it right now, but give me 1 second here. Just quickly recap again here, right? So 31.5, 1440p, high color accuracy out of the box, 100% sRGB and 100% Rec 709. This does support adaptive sync, which again, not necessarily key, but maybe if you're doing a little bit of gaming outside of your content creation, nice to just be able to have adaptive sync support at least, and have a little bit of a higher refresh rate as well, right? So let me go ahead and double check on the price point for this model here. And this one would be at $449. So let me go ahead and also drop this link in the chats for the cards and products that I've gone ahead and talked about. So here, first up is going to be the dual graphics card. I'm going to drop that in the chat. I'm also going to drop the link in the chat there for the Phoenix card. And then I'm going to go ahead and drop this here in the chat with the PA328QV coming in at 449. Evo's asking, no, the blue light filtering, we were actually one of the first companies to implement this across the board. It's pretty much present in every single monitor. I generally find the way it could just be beneficial is that there are some studies that do show that sometimes just reducing blue light can be a little bit of an aid in terms of the kind of working across the day at maybe being less in conflict with what's called the circadian rhythm, which your brain is kind of triggered to different light values to kind of be a little bit more active or kind of toned down. So this is similar to kind of the night light mode that's already offered on kind of different types of mobile operating systems like iOS or Android or even Windows. So the nice thing here is that you don't have to kind of worry about it. You can just toggle that. You can set it to different levels. And it's also been tuned a little bit more to essentially be less color, how would I say, less critically impactful to colors, because generally when you're removing the blue, you're also going to be affecting the way that the colors get rendered. But I find if you're doing something maybe just like reading email, just maybe basically looking through photos, right? You're going to be doing general desktop use, and you're not necessarily need huge critical color accuracy. It's not a bad option. Same thing like on even our gaming monitors. I've used it when essentially I might be grinding a level. I don't need necessarily to worry about kind of having the best picture quality. You can just toggle and go to a higher blue light filtering mode to be able to benefit from that. JJ is asking, why is the B550-I not supporting the 5800 X3D? It actually should be. All of our AMD series motherboards have already received the GISA support that does actually enable support for AMD's latest series CPUs. So there shouldn't be actually any concerns in that regard. Let me go ahead and check and see the firmware. Yep. It already has the 1.2.0 release. It doesn't have the later release that we've gone ahead and issued for some of the other motherboards, but that should be coming in the not too distant future. So I wouldn't be concerned with that. So if you are going to be planning to pick up a 5800 X3D, don't worry about that. You should be fine. And if you want, feel free to go ahead and tag me in the PCDIY group, and I'll see if I can double check with our team on maybe a projected timeline in terms of when that update might be coming. Hey, Teffin, yes. It actually depends on which PG you're looking at in terms of actually 4K, right? So let me go ahead and actually show you that. Boom. So Teffin, right here, this is one of them. We also do have a TUF Gaming Series monitor that would also be able to give you the 4K 144, but this monitor right here, the PG32UQ, great option. Gives you HDMI 2.1, 4K, 1 millisecond MPRT, which really translates into, variable, probably about like 4 to about 6 gray to gray. G-Sync compatibility, our eLMB sync technology, which is still pretty rare amongst a lot of monitors in terms of having backlight strobing along with adaptive sync technology. A nice punchy bright display at having that HDR 600 support certification, quantum dot, and quite a number of other little things in there. Plus, this also supports the ROG Dust Mount Kit, but this would be the monitor if you're talking about 4K at 144. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and see if any other questions right there. Joseph is asking right here, is the 3090 the only card that supports NVLink? Yes. NVIDIA does currently only support NVLink with the 3090. None of the other GPUs will support NVLink-based support, so multiple GPU configurations. And that's just because it's no longer an active development point from the GPU side, right? If you're using multiple GPUs and like a GPU compute accelerations, then you do have more flexibility to run multiple GPUs because you don't have to run those in NVLink because the application can look at each GPU separately and then get acceleration. Zephyrus Duo, I believe it should be launching, I think, late this month sometime, maybe early next month. Okay, so let's go ahead and now take a look at our next product. All right. Next up here is going to be our our PN80. And this one is probably one of my favorite products that we've released in terms of our mini PC lineup. So let's go ahead and take a look here. And I believe I did drop that monitor in the chat, right? So that's going to be, this is going to be a new addition. So this PN80, for those of you probably already seen maybe some of the prior streams, the really cool thing about the PN like 50, 51, or the upcoming PN 63 is those are all very compact. So you're talking about like 0.6 to like 1 liter base. This is going to be a little bit larger. This is a 2.4 liter, but still very compact. This is going to be supporting a Tiger Lake 11th Gen series processor. Very, very nice performance. You're getting pretty much almost a desktop class here because the CPU that's used in here is going to be the 11700B, which is going to be a 65 base watt part. That's going to be 8 core, 16 threads. And along with moving over into that Tiger Lake, you're going to get PCI Gen 4 support, which is outstanding. You're also going to get the flexibility to have Thunderbolt. This is going to have Wi-Fi 6. It's also going to have 2.5 gigabit LAN. Tons of USB ports on here, including Thunderbolt 4 and supporting up to 4. That's right, 4 drives on this unit. So you're going to have 2 M.2s and then 2 SATA-based drives. Plus, like I said, if you were to use Thunderbolt, you could really attach quite a number of other drives, right? Where you could have like an enclosure, where you could have like a 5-drive enclosure. You could go with, of course, a wide range of different type of permutations in terms of what you can play around with this, right? But let's go ahead and take a look at it right here. You'll see that it's quite compact. It has been specifically designed to be able to be oriented both vertically and horizontally. So you can go ahead and set it up in either configuration. It does have a fully integrated AC adapter, which is really nice to minimize any type of cable clutter. You don't have to worry about having an external kind of AC adapter that you have to kind of lay out. It's just built in, just attach the cable and you're good to go. It does support VESA mounting, so that if you do want to put this on a VESA bracket so that you can put it on like the back of a monitor, you could also do that. You can see right here, as I noted, it will support up to 4 drives. So one of them being the latest generation PCI Gen 4, and then you also have PCI Gen 3x4, both supporting the NVMe protocol. And then you can also go with either mechanical or SATA-based drives if you want to have supplemental storage. Here in the front, you're going to have an SD card reader, which is UHS-1 class compliant. So that's going to be nice for high speed, transfers, maybe pulling that off of like a camera. You've got a microphone and line in and headphone jack. So this is a combo jack. You then have 2 USB ports here up the front, 10 gigabits type A and 10 gigabits type C, along with your power button. And recessed inside there is also a 2-watt speaker that's also inside this. This model, using the new Intel of course, Xe graphics architecture. It's pretty impressive. It has AV1 decoding. Of course, you have wide range of decoding support for all other formats. It also has that new media engine. So if you want to be able to take advantage of things like QuickSync, rapid decoding, AI acceleration that they offer for batch conversion and processing with different types of applications for like photo editing. It's really, really cool in that regard where, you don't necessarily have to go to like a discrete class GPU to be able to get some pretty good performance from the GPU, especially in kind of generalized applications. And you do have the support for supporting up to 4 displays. So a lot of flexibility here. Of course, with the Thunderbolt, you're going to get up to 40 gigabits in terms of the high-speed connection. So great if you want to be able to go to ultra high-speed external storage devices, docks, hubs, RAID arrays, even eGPUs or PCIe enclosures. 15-watt bus power can also be supported through that port. And then when we take a look here, 15 ports in total on this, mini PC. So you're going to again have that SD card slot. You have the audio jack, right? Line out mic headphone, 10 gigabit type A, 10 gigabit type C, power button, the speaker. Our model here in North America, we will only be shipping it with the DisplayPort. So you'll get DisplayPort here. You then get an HDMI 2.1, 2 more audio jacks, one here dedicated, as you can see, for mic and for headphone, 2 Thunderbolt 4 ports right here, and then 4 type A ports that are all USB 3 Gen 2 10 gigabit base ports, and then 2.5 gigabit LAN plus Wi-Fi 6 on this model. This model actually also for North America will be not even just Wi-Fi 6, but it will be Wi-Fi 6E. So you'll get the fastest Wi-Fi in that class pretty much in terms of what you can get right now. And it will also come with, of course, the latest generation Bluetooth, so Bluetooth 5.2. The model that we're going to be carrying here will not be a bare bones. So it'll be essentially, you'll get the CPU, which will be that 11700B. I think it has 512 gigabyte PCI Gen 4 SSD and then 16 gigabytes of RAM. And you can upgrade the RAM. You can, of course, update the storage. You can't change out the CPU. So that is going to be the PN80. And this model probably going to be showing up sometime, I'd say maybe in the middle of next month timeframe. Let me see if we have any questions right there. Somebody's asking about the PG UQ. So you're talking, I believe you're talking about the OLED-based monitors. No updates as of right now. Probably the earliest is going to be maybe an update sometime in Q3. Of course, when we're getting ready to launch that product, just like what we're talking about products right now that we're launching, we have this stream every Friday. So either join us here on Fridays or join our PCDIY Facebook group, which I give announcements on terms of any time that we have any brand new product launches and we're pushing them out in terms of availability. But no updates right now specifically for the 42 or for the 40-inch ROG Swift OLED monitors. Okay. Yeah. So Tefin, if you want 4K 144 hertz, that's going to be lower cost than the PG329Q, then you can look at the TUF Gaming model that we have. The TUF Gaming monitor is going to be coming at a lower price point and is not HDR 600. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and keep moving that along. Let's take a look here at our next monitor right here. This one's not going to be, an enthusiast class right here, maybe as exciting. Did I drop in the link to that PN80? Actually, I don't know if I did. Let me see if I dropped it. Oh, yes, I did. I dropped in the link there to the PN80. Okay, cool. We've got a more basic kind of general monitor here coming in at $200. This is going to be kind of just a general purpose monitor in our lineup, but we've got a brand new VA. So usually the VA and the VE series, any of those monitors that don't have a kind of a TUF designation, TUF Gaming, ROG Strix, or ROG or ProArt, are going to be a more general series type of monitors. And so this is just a standard approximately almost 24-inch, 23.8, full HD, IPS, thin frame, bezel frame, right? 75 hertz adaptive sync based monitor, right? So the cool thing though here is that there is also going to be a USB hub on this monitor, and it does give you a good degree of kind of ergonomics. A lot of the more kind of entry-level monitors I'd say in this space don't necessarily come with that. And also something that also gets kind of often overlooked, even amongst our higher end monitors, a lot of people don't even realize if they're taking a look at like companies like LG or Samsung. Both LG and Samsung in the US only offer a 1-year warranty on their monitors. On all of our monitors, we offer a 3-year warranty, which to me, that's a pretty big difference, especially as you make a sizable investment within a monitor. All right. So just kind of something to be mindful of. Again, I think at a lower price point, that also becomes a point of interest, right? You could maybe find a monitor, maybe it's $10 cheaper than ours, but maybe it doesn't have ergonomics and maybe it only has a 1-year warranty. For me, the $10 delta of having a monitor that has better ergonomics plus the 3-year warranty is definitely kind of a worthwhile benefit, right? So again, with that IPS, you're going to get good color quality, wide viewing angles, lots of connections on here, HDMI display port, legacy for those of you out there might still be using a VGA connection, a USB hub, which is nice, earphone jack, and an audio in. So that gives you some flexibility. And you can see right here, you get full height, swivel, tilt, and pivot flexibility, right? So again, not necessarily going to be focused at a lot of you gamers, but if you're looking for a secondary display, maybe for just general usage, maybe making a recommendation to somebody, nice, good, solid option there. And it also comes with a wide range of our presets, which are really nice to be able to kind of toggle back and forth to be able to kind of tailor towards different usages. Again, maybe, like I said, night view. I know a lot of users, we took a poll recently from people that actually make brightness adjustment, and there's a lot of people that drop their brightness specifically in the nighttime, right? Or they specifically drop the general brightness of their monitor compared to the out-of-the-box brightness. So having some of those options like that are nice. Integrated cable management. And again, this monitor probably going to be coming in probably the beginning of next month. And like I said, this one will be coming in at $199. Okay. Let me go ahead and drop that in the chat there. Any questions right there? Joseph, yes, PN80, yeah, that well, as you can see, it's a pretty high-end unit, especially also because of the performance of that excuse me, the CPU, and of course the Thunderbolt and the pre-configured DRAM and the SSD configuration. I think, let me see, I have the price. I think it's 12.99 if I remember. Is this going to be its price point? PN80. Yes, that's correct. The PN80 will be coming in at 12.99. Its price point. But our PN series is really, really wide in delta. Again, if you're looking at kind of the PN series, we have Intel and AMD solutions. We go all the way down to around about $200. All about maybe $250, and then all the way up to something like this, which would probably be our flagship kind of mini PC. So there's kind of models arranged in all type of lineups, and you can get still some really impressive units. If you're looking for maybe kind of like a little bit of a hybrid option, the PN63, which will be coming out, I think next month, I really like that model. In terms of that, gives you still 3 drives. You still get 10 gigabits, Wi-Fi 6, Bluetooth. It's going to be more compact. And that model, I think you can pre-order, and that's going to be, I think, around like 330 or something like that. Let me go ahead and show you that one quickly if you're interested. That's this model right here. And I think this is going to be a great value right here. You're going to drop a lot in terms of the cores though, right? Because I think the base model will be a 4-core, but it'll still be an 11th gen part. So it's still actually quite fast in terms of general desktop use. And if you're doing something like a Plex or a SAN or a NAS or maybe a VMware kind of setup, any number of different kind of permutations like that, or maybe even running Chrome OS, which is kind of interesting, then you could still definitely leverage that, right? But we'll have higher end configurations. And like I said, the PN, our prior PN models on the Intel side can go up to more cores. And then we also have the PN50 and 51 for AMD, which of course go all the way from 4-core all the way up to 16 threads, right? So a lot of flexibility. But this is a really nice model as well that, again, if you're looking for maybe something like that, then maybe consider checking that out. Okay. So let's keep moving this along. Drop the PN80 in there. We got the G-Skill announcement. We got that. Okay, cool. We got our, our EA. Talked about that one. All right, so let's get into an ROG monitor. And this one's going to be coming in at $729, guys. I know I gave an announcement previously on this one that a lot of people were kind of interested in, and that is going to be the counter to our PG329Q, which is currently available, but is going to be in black. So we are going to be releasing this model in white. So I'm a big fan of this monitor. It looks really nice. It's got a really cool, clean design aesthetic, right? Of course, with white, perfectly matches those people that are wanting to go with a white theme build. Get a lot of connections right here with the USB hub, right? 2 USB high-speed ports right here. You got the HDMI and the DP, and then you've got your headphone or your line out jack that you can go ahead and utilize there too. So nice range of flexibility when it comes to the connections. This is going to be a 2560 by 1440 monitor. So it's essentially 1440p. Fast IPS, so that new generation fast IPS-based display, up to 175 hertz, 1 millisecond graded gray. We'll support our extreme low motion blur technology, right? So ELMB sync, so that means you get backlight strobing along with adaptive sync that can run at the same time. If you care about motion clarity, this can provide you a really nice level of motion clarity improvement in specific games. Maybe not beneficial in every game, but it's cool that you can kind of toggle it on and off and see if it benefits you in the games that you're playing. You get G-Sync and you get that nice bright punchy display at HDR 600. A lot of people, if you've got an older monitor, you might be somewhere around like 250 nits, maybe 300 nits. So being able to jump into a much brighter display, it's pretty nice in my opinion. Gives you a really nice kind of punch and vibrant race experience, especially for a wide range of games. Let me double check. I think this monitor also has support for display widget, but I don't remember 100%. Let me double check here. Yeah, it does actually also have display widget. So display widget is pretty cool because display widget allows you to go ahead and actually control your monitor essentially within your operating system. So I'm going to show you right here. So you can see actually right here, it says monitor is not supported because I don't have my actual monitor connected. But the cool thing right here with the display widget is you can see like how you could change the presets. So you could go to like user, you could go to sRGB, you could actually adjust the brightness, the contrast, the sharpness, adjust blue light filtering, shadow boost. This is a really cool option right here too, AppSync, where you can actually pair different applications with different profiles. So an example is you could open up your web browser and have it in sRGB mode. And then you can have your photos maybe open up in scenery mode for like a more punchy display. And then maybe you want to jump into like Overwatch or Valorant or CSGO or Apex. And you could actually have it tuned to where maybe you could have like shadow boost enabled with maybe a little bit more contrast, right? You can pair that automatically. There's also some other really cool options like our Game Plus for overlay menus, things like stat timers and other things like that. So that's cool that the monitor has that. So you don't have to physically make any kind of control to the physical portion of the monitor. You don't have to physically touch any buttons. You could just open up the software and be able to kind of control the monitor all through. Excuse me, you can control the monitor through software as opposed to having to use physical buttons. So I'm a really big fan of Display Widget. And again, this one will be coming in probably at the beginning of next month, $729. I think a fantastic monitor for probably the widest range of gamers out there, especially when you're talking about 1440p resolution without having to make that jump into 4K. 4K is really nice, especially if you're going to take advantage of it in the normal desktop space. But 2560 by 1440, I'm a big fan of it. And now we finally got a white offering, right? So we're going to be offering already the 27-inch in white, and then we'll have now this 32-inch in white. And as I noted right here, the HDMI 2.0, 2.0, the headphone or line out display port, and then the USB 3 hub. And then let me go ahead and show you here too. Don't forget is that this does come with the, see if I have the image right here, AC1. Is remember for ROG monitors, you can also get this, the ROG Dust Mount Kit. It's pretty cheap. The cool thing about it is it allows you to mount the monitor with a C-clamp design, and you still get the ability to kind of have adjustments, right? So that if you want to kind of maximize and have a really nice clean desktop setup space, you can go ahead and just dock that to the bottom of the monitor, and then you have the advantage of doing that. So that is fully compatible with that monitor, okay? So let me go ahead and drop those in the chat for you guys, and I'll double check and see if anybody's got any questions right there. Let me drop that one also in there. All right, so let me see here if we had any questions. Ben says this is great. Yeah, yeah. Well, Ben, I know that you also picked up the Gundam-based monitor, right? So the Gundam-based monitor is already in white, so that was a pretty nice kind of addition that we had right there, right? Let's see if I can tweak that just a little bit. Maybe 1 second. There we go. All right. Emil's asking, what memory do I recommend? I don't recommend any specific memory. We partner and validate with pretty much every single memory manufacturer out there. So, Team Group, G-Skill, Kingston, Mushkin, XPG, Patriot. It doesn't matter. Corsair. The only kind of tentative point that I make with Corsair is that Corsair fully is mechanically and of course firmware wise interoperable and compatible, but their RGB lighting, they don't support native RGB lighting control through our ASUS Aura API and SDK. They require a third party link. It's just a limitation that they impose. So you have to use iCUE, and then iCUE can sync with Armory Crate, but it adds an additional layer of kind of potential, sometimes some issues. As of right now, I can tell you generally works pretty well, but it can sometimes, just because it's a two software system, potentially kind of run into issues where if you were to get like a kit of Team Group or G Skill or Kingston, Crucial, Patriot, any of the other memory kits that are out there, they all support native control. So that means the RGB memory can natively be controlled with an Armory Crate or Aura Creator. But from just a general standpoint, you can really feel confident. The main thing that you would have to always keep in mind is just that as you go with specific kind of speeds for memory, you do want to keep in mind that you could be introducing, the likelihood of maybe that memory not working based on the CPU and platform. So if you have kind of a platform, I can't give you specifics without knowing it, but you would want to keep in mind that there's generally always going to be a certain kind of range of memory that will usually always be very, very high in terms of ensuring stability and reliability and compatibility. And then there will be a certain segment of memory kits that if you jump into those kits, they may not always be compatible. And that's not because the motherboard physically is not compatible, but it's like I talked about at the very beginning of the stream. It could be that those overclocking kits just operate at a much higher level, and the memory controller inside the CPU may not always support working at that level. And that becomes a little bit more variable, right? All right. Okay, so I think that takes care of that model. So let's get ready to jump into our next model right here. Keep moving along. Did I drop in? I don't think I dropped in there the desk mount kit. So let me go ahead and drop in the desk mount kit for you guys if you're interested. Okay. All right. And we've got two more items to go through. So here we have another monitor here, and this is going to be, and I believe, and if anybody didn't hear me on the pricing for the PG329Q, that's going to be $729. Our next monitor is definitely going to be a bit more expensive, coming in at $1499, but it's going to really be tailored towards those professionals that are out there. So this is going to be another ProArt series display. So we talked about, of course, a ProArt display that was 2560 by 1440. So here with the PA328QV, we're stepping up to a 4K. So the big thing here is this K. The K designation means that it includes a color calibration kit. So you actually get this X-Rite color calibrator inside the box. So this is going to be a 4K 1000 nit base monitor. This is going to be utilizing a high-end backlighting technology to be able to reach that high brightness. So you're going to have outstanding color accuracy, less than a delta E of 1, 98% DCI-P3, 99% Adobe RGB, which is rare. You generally don't have such a high level for the Adobe RGB coverage. You then also, of course, have 100% sRGB and Rec 709. You get the hardware calibration support, USB-C connectivity, and this is fully Calman certified. So you do have the flexibility of going in with more advanced kind of software calibration if you do want that flexibility, right? Now, to be able to achieve that 1000 nits, this unit does come with a mini LED backlight, has over 500 mini LED zones that are going to be present in there. You do have the HDR support that's also present here. And for the USB-C, this gives you both full USB-C for display, and it also has pass-through power support. So if you had this like linked into like a laptop configuration, it could pass over 80 watts to like the laptop or to the other device that you would be connecting. You can see right here again, it comes with the color calibrator. It does fully support the 4-way levels of ergonomic adjustment, just like the other PA series monitors, right? And when we take a look here, in terms of your connectivity, you're going to have a wide range of connections that are right here. So you can see you've got your power connection. You have tons of HDMI, right? HDMI, display port, then USB, then the USB-C, USB-C, to USB right here. And then you're also going to have your headphone or your line out. So tons of connectivity available to you. You'll have here, let me see. Yep. You'll have of course, our nice touch interface option right here with the joysticks, so that you can go ahead and be able to make all your manual level of adjustments and controls if you want to be able to go ahead and tweak and tune anything. And it also has a nice weighted display in terms of the base. So it's got some nice heft, which I think feels really nice. And that's kind of already known factor there with our PA series displays here. So this is really going to be focused at those that are looking for a really impressive, high quality, kind of picture quality focus based monitor. So if you're in any type of production workflow, so animation, rendering, photography, videography, right? Anything along those lines, color quality, accuracy, and calibration are going to be at the forefront, then this is going to be go-to. Could you game on it? For sure, but the response time is not going to be of course, as low as some of our other monitors that still have very good color quality. So you're going to be more limited in terms of the refresh rate and the response time, but you could definitely do it. I mean, I gamed on a 2560 1440 IPS display for, 5+ years. So it's not, an issue in that regard. It just really comes down to what your preferences are, right? And this is fully validated at the full display HDR 100 standard. It does also feature our specialized HDR, what are called PQ curves, which the PQ curves are important. Those are essentially specialized kind of tone maps, which help to manage that whatever is being sent to the display is ramped and managed to kind of be in alignment with what the display can render essentially on its screen. So these type of actually curves are important. You can see we have what's called a hard clip and a PQ optimized and a PQ basic. And depending on actually what's going to be displayed in terms of HDR content, you may want to actually pick one of these PQ curves. And this can be beneficial as opposed to you having to kind of manually figure it out and get kind of the best experience for the HDR content that you're viewing. So we have tried to make it easier for you to be able to maximize that HDR experience. Okay. All right, and this also does, of course, come with a really cool feature that gets often overlooked, but that's going to be that this monitor does have an internal scalar IC chip. The cool thing about this is this allows you to take our ProArt calibration and actually store it directly in the monitor. Normally, you would save this within like a ICC profile or like a file within Windows, but this can actually cause problems if you're switching between one system to another or you're using kind of new types of devices. So here you get more flexibility in terms of being able to maintain accuracy and consistency with whatever you're going to connect because the actual storage occurs inside the monitor. Plus, we can do cool things like we can tie it in with our software experience to give you reminders of when you should maybe recalibrate so that you can maintain color consistency over time. Because if you're not aware, once you calibrate, it doesn't hold forever. You do get color drift and you get other things. And depending on your lighting conditions, whether you have overhead lights and then maybe in the nighttime you turn off lights, or just in general, like after maybe 3 to 6 months, you may actually need to redo your calibration. So there can be kind of different aspects to keep in mind when it comes to that. So this one, like I said, is going to be coming out probably the beginning of next month timeframe and going to be coming in at a bit of a higher price point, as I noted, because this is going to be a much higher end display with that mini LED technology and that 1000 nits, so $1499. Okay. Question? Yeah. Mr. Perez, feel free to go ahead and put your question there. Yeah, I would definitely say still better than a 10-year-old screen in terms of response. Yeah. I mean, on response, I think on that panel, it's still like about a 5 millisecond average, which again, like I said, for a long time, people were gaming with 16, 20, 25 millisecond monitors, even laptops. It's crazy. People don't realize that only recently we've introduced laptops that get down to 3 milliseconds, right? There was literally laptops that were sold last year and the year before that were 20, 25 milliseconds, but they were 144, 240 hertz, right? Laptop, right? And people were gaming on this and enjoying it. So, response time, it's important, but it all cuts down to what really is kind of super critical for you for motion clarity, for, input experience and kind of other factors right there. And for me, I generally say that for most people, as long as you can really legitimately be underneath I'd say a 12 to 15 millisecond, especially if you can be under 10 milliseconds, it's a nice responsive experience. And really only kind of people that are super critical about input latency and really having that best kind of motion clarity experience should really kind of be that critical at wanting to be below that, say that like kind of that 5 millisecond response time. JJ's asking, any updates on the Thor 1600 watt? 1600 watts not going to be coming out in the foreseeable future. Right now, we just finished launching the 1000 watt. Next will be the 1200 watt. And then next will be, after that will be the 1600 watt. And for both the 1200 and the 1600 watt, probably not going to be until maybe, late Q2. And then Q3 probably will see the release of the 850 watt along with the Loki, the SFX series PSUs. Okay. Hey, Joseph, right now, no plans for the desk mount kit in white. Okay. All right. And I think we've got one last product right here. And I don't know if I linked that one. Did I link that one in the chat there? Okay, I haven't linked that one in the chat. Oh, yes, I did. So let me go ahead and close on that one. And we'll go into our last product right here. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look here. Last new update is going to be with the TUF Gaming AX3000 V2. So we actually had a prior version of V1, and the big update here on this model is going to be you get an update to 2.5 gigabit. So this is going to be one of our cheapest models. So 2.5 gigabit, we've been adding it more and more into more of our routers as of late, and this is cool because we're now getting more ISPs, especially AT&T is just rolling out nationally where they're updating ISP service to now be beyond 1 gigabit, right? Where they have, I think, a 2.5 gig, they have a 5 gigabit, and I think there might even be a higher speed that they'll be rolling out. But the 2.5 gig and the 5 gigabit rollout, I think, is pretty cool. And accordingly, you want a router to be able to support that. Plus, if you have laptops or mini PCs or motherboards that have 2.5 gigabit, you maybe want to take advantage of it. So the by default, the main model that I was recommending is that we had our RT86. That was a really great choice that we had with 2.5 gigabit, but now we're going to have this model here with the AX3200 with 2.5 gigabit LAN. So this is going to give you Wi-Fi 6. So if you haven't upgraded, and based on our polling, still about 50% of users are still on Wi-Fi 5. Wi-Fi 6 now is present in so many devices, from laptops to, of course, motherboards, to mini PCs, to tablets, to phones, to even new types of IoT devices. So if you don't have that, you're not maximizing the speed or the range or the experience that you can get. So it might be something you want to jump into. This does come with our great software experience, so you can go ahead and easily set this up literally within about a minute, minute and a half via our ASUS Router app. You can do prioritizations so that you can easily go ahead and optimize for gaming. You can just literally switch into the app and go into gaming mode just at the touch of a button, so that it will prioritize all the gaming packets. You'll see right here that you have 4 gigabit LAN ports. You have that 2.5 gigabit WAN port, and then you also have a USB 3 port, which you could use for a wide range of different kind of usage experience. You do also have LAN aggregation that is on this model right here. And it does have our advanced what's called ASUS WRT firmware. I'm not going to get into all that, but there's some really cool options that we have that actually allow you to kind of go prioritize devices that support operating a VPN directly on the router, which is great for maybe improving anonymity, maybe reducing things like ads. You also have flexibility within the way that the unit's been designed to also support what's called AI mesh. So if you actually want to pair two of these together to even give you more coverage, you can do that because ASUS routers support pairing multiple ASUS routers together. So really, really nice model, I think, and going to be very aggressively priced here, essentially almost becoming a drop-in replacement for the current V1 base model, which is right now available, but this will be priced underneath the current kind of 2.5 gigabit models that we have right now. So let me go ahead and just show you right here. Let me see here, RT86S. So previously, this used to be kind of be one of our lowest cost options right here with the RTAX86S, giving you the 2.5 gigabit LAN. But this was quite a bit more expensive. So we don't have finalized pricing yet on the V2 model, but it should be probably underneath $180 is my expectation in terms of the overall price point. So it's definitely quite a bit lower than the price point right now than the RT86S or the RT86. So that is going to be another update. Okay, so I think that rounds out our new products here. We're going to get ready to jump into actually our PC DIY Builder Spotlight here in a moment. Let me go ahead and just see if you got any other questions that might come up right here. Hey, Ben. Ben's giving us a little shout out that AI Mesh is amazing. I definitely agree. I'm a big fan of AI Mesh. Again, by default, you don't necessarily need it in a lot of cases, especially with a higher end router. It'll probably give you the coverage that you need in most spaces. But in what we call kind of last mile scenarios, or maybe really, really big environments, maybe you need kind of coverage in like a patio in a backyard, or maybe you got a very large kind of 2-story environment, then maybe potentially you might want to actually go with the mesh configuration, because there are potentially sometimes disadvantages to going with mesh because you use what's called a backhaul, one of the bands in the router. So if you have a dual band router, you lose one of the bands because one of the bands have to be used connected to connect the two routers together. That's the benefit of going with like a tri-band mesh network, which means that you still lose a band, but you still then maintain 2 bands that you have available to use, right? So just kind of something to keep in mind right there. Teflon, I haven't looked into interoperability, but assuming that there's not kind of anything weird in terms of ISP servicing or the way that their modems link in, there shouldn't be any issues in terms of using it with Starlink. Hey, David, fantastic. Another person gives some good feedback there in terms of AI mesh support. Hey, Richard, let me see if I can find your question here quickly. I'm gonna have to try to scroll, see if I can find it. If not, then you'll maybe just have to drop it in there again. I'm not seeing a question from you, so if you can go ahead and maybe redrop it back in. Oh, no, wait. I believe if you're asking about NVIDIA or AMD-based cards, there can be there is a technical difference. So if the monitor states that it has like G-Sync compatibility, you do actually have to use that with NVIDIA-based card. Now, NVIDIA has allowed for more flexibility in terms of that G-Sync monitors can operate with AMD cards and you can force it, but that isn't necessarily a guarantee in terms of how the monitor will work. So when you see a monitor, like we have TUF Gaming monitors that might, let's say FreeSync, but they don't say G-Sync, some people assume that still means you can use it with G-Sync, and that's not accurate. You could force it to operate in G-Sync, but because the validation hasn't occurred, you could sometimes get weird anomalies like overscan issues. There could sometimes be blackouts or dropouts. There can be weird kind of anomalies that can occur. So ideally, if you do want to use G-Sync, you do ideally want to get a monitor that does state either G-Sync compatibility or uses the G-Sync chip. G-Sync chip is going to be in a much more expensive G-Sync monitor because you're paying for an advanced FPGA processor that's built into the monitor. It has a lot more advanced technology built into it, including high-speed DDR memory, and it does a lot of things like management that's going to be, I'd say, much better at handling variable overdrive, so motion clarity across a wide range of refresh rates and some other kind of really cool stuff that it does. So hopefully that answers your question there. All right. So let's get ready to jump into our PCDIY Builder Spotlight, guys. Give me 1 second to go ahead and load up the submissions that we've got here. And I will get ready to jump into this here. Okay, just bringing out our files right here. So give me 1 second, guys. Okay. Oh, and I do actually want to make one quick note here. I know some people already may be doing it in the community, but if you guys were interested, this is our ROG robot. So we actually now have something that's called the ROG Worldview, which means that we've replaced the ROG robot. This is from quite some time ago. And now with the ROG Worldview, we actually have a set of characters. So the characters, it would include characters like Horseman, Omni, Seven, PKD, right? We have an entire family of these characters, and there's a lot of really cool kind of backstory elements. If you guys actually haven't checked it out, let me actually show you here one of the recent little cool kind of behind the scenes stories. But I did go ahead and upload to the PCDIY group our STL file there. So if anybody has a 3D printer and maybe wants to try out maybe printing out the ROG robot, you can try printing it out if you wanted to. So let me go ahead and just kind of show you here. So here you guys can see this is actually the ROG saga. This is actually kind of like an entire little story, and it gives you kind of the background on like Akira. Akira is really cool. Seven's really cool. Horseman, it was the very first ROG Worldview character, but there's an entire kind of narrative that we have that actually talks about kind of like the characters, the world environment. And if you guys are ROG fans, you know about how kind of the characters have kind of played into the design elements for our different products and how they've been represented in a lot of kind of our different assets. But to be able to even add more kind of depth into the characters, we've been expanding the world and kind of the detail to kind of give insight and history behind each one of them. You can actually check out some really cool, what we call the ROG Saga videos, and the ROG Saga videos actually give kind of background into each one of the characters. So if you actually check out some of them, like this one right here is a recent one that we went ahead and put out. This one is from ACHT right here. So this is the most recent origin story, which came out in March. And you can actually watch the kind of the cool little kind of origin story. And there's also been one for Horseman. There's been one for Seven. There's been one for Akira. So we're going to eventually have them for all of the ROG characters, right? And fleshed out. And if you want to find out more, you can actually go to the ROG Saga page. But anyways, the main thing I essentially just wanted to let you guys know is that if you do kind of have interest in the ROG robot, right? Again, you can join the PCDIY group, and there's a featured announcement post where the STL file is available there. So if you want to try to print it out, it is complex. It's not going to be necessarily easy, but if you want to try it out, then maybe consider trying it out. Hey, Mr. Perez, I don't know if I saw your question. I think I did answer it, but you'd have to go back and let me know and check that out. All right, so let's go ahead and get ready to kick off our PCDIY Builder Spotlight. Let me go ahead and just try to see if I can add in the quick details right here before we jump into it. So if anybody has any questions right here before I get ready to jump into that, feel free while I just load these up right here quickly. Okay. All right, I think I got everything loaded up here. I think the first one we're going to go with is going to be Arc Reactor MK50 by the one, the only Modding Cafe. So Modding Cafe has definitely been featured here in the past, similar to some of the amazing builders that we have, like Snef, like like Rhodes PC, Nordic 3D, Overchilled. Builds, right? We've had some amazing builders that kind of routinely kind of pop up here on the stream, and Modding Cafe to me is definitely one of the absolute best builders, modders in the game. The attention to detail, the creativity, the theme and the execution, the fit and the finish and polish of what they do is truly impressive. And as somebody that has been building for a really long time and seen a lot of really cool builds, to me, whenever I see what they're working on, I'm generally going to always be, it's not a question if I'm going to like it, it's just how much I'm going to like it and how much I'm going to be blown away, right? So let's go ahead and take a look at the amazing work that we have right here with this build. So we're going to start off and we're going to trail it through some of just the different images. This was actually built off of our Glacial Series motherboard, which of course is a motherboard that we did in collaboration with EK, which features a full what's called Ultra Block, because it covers the CPU, it covers the LAN, it covers the VRM, it covers the motherboard, right? And you'll see some really cool accents right here. So already we're starting to get to see some colors, right? So we got silver, we've got red, we've got gold. Beautiful work right here. We can already see that this is going to have a customized chassis. Then I'm not necessarily usually always a fan of a vertical GPU mount, but the way that this has been integrated in and the streamlined aesthetic is absolutely stunning. And I think that it really goes to show you that the focus on wanting to have a thematic feel that was cohesive from top to bottom was really amazing right here. We have the anime matrix at display right here. Beautiful work at having everything kindly tightly lined up right here, and what's called color blocking. So you have color blocking here with different colors giving you different accents and lighting with silvers, blues, the reds, the golds, right? All just looking stunning right there, right? Absolutely love this right here in terms of this nice, of course, just attention to detail to take that elevation even further, right? Mark 50, which if you guys are a fan of generally anything that has to do with Iron Man, is that you know that the mark is the designation for the different iterations that he has in terms of the suit designs, right? The OLED live dash display right there. You can see Stark right there is cool. It's also lit up in the anime matrix display. Nice, of course, little customization element there to be able to start the system, right? And then we take a look at the back at the fully custom chassis, right? And you can see two massive radiators fit in beautifully with nice clean cable management. Of course, the latest generation Thor 1000 watt version 2 powering this system here. Looks fantastic. And then right here, just look at this. This is just insane, right? The work right here to be able to kind of add in all these beautiful details, right? All these accents to kind of enclose the entire system, have it feel like it's a suit of armor in terms of that internal hardware is fantastic. And then, of course, here, this takes on the kind of the feel of a chest cavity, which is really, really cool. It's all lit up like an arc reactor, right? So it's essentially like a big version of the arc reactor, right? Which is really, really cool. And then, of course, you have all these little subtle points that are all inside of here, right? I mean, just stunning, stunning work. Again, the fit, the finish, the attention to detail is just really top, right? Definitely one of the absolute best builders in the game. My hat goes off. And we're also going to link the build video and montage for the YouTube channel that he has. That if you guys haven't checked it out, it's about a 10-minute watch, but you should absolutely watch it. It's just beautiful to just see it kind of go from conceptualization, the 3D modeling, the fabrication work, and then ultimately getting into the final build, right? So here you can see just kind of a nice, beautiful angled shot. You've got your reservoir right here, then going straight up in here into the vertical block for the card. I love just that clean symmetry in terms of just how it all gets kind of laid out. The cool even wattage display on the Thor looks really cool. And then, of course, he's got the ASUS Sync where it's just got this cool, just cohesive vibe, right? The whole thing is kind of like this vertical suit. Really, really cool. David says, yep, just love this build. Emil says, awesome. Tony would be proud. This is so good. Tefan, amazing work. Joseph, crazy good, right? Yeah, I mean, this is just amazing right here. This is maybe one of my favorite shots right here is when it's in the night. And I love this little addition right here at the bottom that I think absolutely looks stunning. And I love how then even there's, of course, that secondary layer right there, which adds just some textural difference between how you look through it. And actually, I really like that it's not 100% see-through, right? Yeah, I would agree. This is a master class and a masterpiece build in my experience. Definitely, this is up there with some of the absolute best work that I've ever seen done in terms of the PC DIY and the mod kind of community. And I take that in a lot of ways. It's not just like I said, the fit and the finish, the fabrication, the design, the thematic execution, kind of all of it coming together. I love this too. I mean, look at this, how the thing opens up. That's so cool, right? I mean, again, if we go back, it's closed. And then you have this. I mean, it's so cool, right? And I think that's one of the beautiful elements right here is just the kind of a stunning attention to detail that was put into this system. And ultimately what you end up having right here. So just an amazing piece of work. I don't even know which image to leave it on because I think they all look so cool. Maybe just kind of go ahead and maybe leave it on that shot right there. I want to go ahead and open up his submission form right here. So give me 1 second to actually bring up his submission form. Okay. Do I have that? Yeah. Okay. And here, actually, let me go ahead and show you this, guys. So, well, I just want to show you a little bit of kind of some of the beautiful work right here that you can see in the live video. Excuse me, his little work log video right here, right? So if we just go back right here, you can see just a little bit of this, right? Just look at that cool part, right? If we just go again right there, how it all comes together with that kind of really cool vibe. Seeing it lit up, I mean, that just, the pictures were cool, right? But when you just saw the level of how it worked when it was actually on and working was so cool. And here you can, of course, see just that attention to detail, the beautiful things in terms of kind of tying all those little pieces together, right? And what kind of inspired him there, right? So there you have the arc reactor. And then it was, how can I take that and make that into a big form? And this has been something that he's done really, really beautifully. And so much of his other builds where he usually kind of uses a reference, like Wafer Box was another great example of that, where something small and then wanted to see that translated into another chassis, right? So here you can just go through and check this out. Here, of course, the custom fabrication work, because this chassis is custom, right? A big thumbs up also on the quality of tools. He's using some beautiful wear tools right there. Bits power right there. We can see all that. There's the glacial getting assembled, all put together. You can see right there those rads. And again, fantastic video. You can check this out. And then right there, we'll just give you a little bit of that shot so you guys can check that out. So cool. So cool. And there you go. Start it, right? Start it with the remote power switch, right? I mean, how cool is that, right? I mean, again, love how he used that anime matrix display, but then he has his own customized little secondary display right there. Has that all lit up then, of course, with the ASUS Aura RGB lighting, right? All coming into play. And just a fantastic, really, really cool build. So let me go ahead and drop that there in link in the chat for you guys. Incredible, yeah. 100%. Yeah, this is really just a huge amount of talent, and you can really see. I don't think it's just even talent, right? It's attention to detail. It's a commitment to the craft, and just overall, just such a beautiful experience, right? So, does the build have a theme? The theme was Iron Man. 3 words to describe the build is just unique. Um, the name here was Arc Reactor Mark 50. So in terms of the core hardware, it's all kind of high-end current generation hardware with the Maximus Z690 Extreme Glacial, a Corsa 12900K. We then have a TUF Gaming 3090, which of course you saw was also then blocked in terms of a water block, a Thor 1000 watt Platinum 2 power supply, 64 gigs of G-Skill Trident Z5 RGB memory at 6000 MT, and then pretty much the water cooling hardware throughout there is bits power, with the exception, of course, the block, which is, of course, an EK block. In terms of what he was most proud of, just how it ultimately turned out. It's just really beautiful, and he really just loves the overall aesthetic. And I would agree. To me, just the fit, the finish, the polish, and the visual of it, and how it comes together, and really kind of gives you a feeling of just being something really cool. I would 100% agree. Nothing that he would change about the build. Is really, really satisfied with how it turned out. Took 2 months worth of time to ultimately complete this full system. So very, very cool. He is actually going to be selling this for a Marvel fan, Iron Man. It's built to sell. His favorite thing is he loves working with ROG hardware because he loves just the kind of the quality and the performance and the ROG design. So overall, man, hats off, a masterclass build, and a masterpiece, man. So thank you so much for submitting this for the stream here. All right, so let's get ready to jump into our next build here, and we will keep moving things along. Let's see what we've got next. I think next is going to be Alexi's build. It's going to be, I think, build of Mikila, I believe, if I'm saying that correctly. Hopefully I am saying that correct. So let's go ahead and take a look at this build. Okay. All right. So interesting here. Let's see. We've got cool. We've got an interesting setup here going with those red vibes. Got a Ryujin in there. We've got, looks like probably a Maximus series board. We've got a vertical mount. We got streamer cables. I'm digging the red and the black vibe aesthetic. These are really interesting fans. I don't know which fans these are, but they've got a cool kind of design aesthetic, which is different than your standard kind of RGB fans that you see a lot, like with Uni fans or, sickle flows or something like that. So they offer interesting aesthetic. And I think this probably even looks cooler in person because a red is one of the hardest color tones to represent digitally. It tends to usually not show as well in terms of kind of the saturation level, especially with the RGB lighting. So this actually probably has a pretty cool effect to it. Yeah, so it was a Maximus. We can see a Maximus 12 series board in there. He's also got an ROG Delta. He has a side panel on here, but this is pretty clean and well executed. It also has a cool aesthetic right here with a little bit of the lighting from the RG Strix card shining down, because that's the way that the 30 series card works. I would have been really interested to see what this does look like horizontally as opposed to vertically, because I think that the bright RGB light bar would have looked even a little bit more bold. But this definitely has a cool design aesthetic, and it's got a little bit more of a sleeper vibe to it. So maybe the way that he wanted it laid out here works better in the vertical, but it's clean and it's well done. And also kudos here for making those streamer cables work out pretty well. Those can be a little bit of a challenge there. This is definitely cool right here, all synced up with the RGB lighting too. And this is giving us a little bit more of those red vibes right there. So overall, cool, nicely done. I got no complaints here in terms of the overall kind of layout or the design of the setup. Like I said, I think it might have been cool to be able to go with the horizontal mount, because the other thing too with this board, if you guys don't know, this board, I'm pretty sure the model that he has, the Maximus 12, also has a live dash display panel, and you can't see the live dash display panel because you went vertical and you went so close that you don't have access to that. But then again, you could show some stats on the Ryujin too, but he's using that with a different display. So kind of just depends on what your preference is, right? I think like right there, yeah, see right there, you can see just a hint of the live dash display that's not being shown off, right? But overall, pretty slick, nicely done. I mean, it's a cool, definitely cool setup. Oh, and he gave us here a shot of our back cable management. Oh, he's also even got an ROG Thor. You know, you got a lot of space in here, so you don't have to super worry about kind of having this like all separated out. So it definitely works okay. So you could have probably gone with an ROG Strix power supply as opposed to the Thor because you can't see the Thor. But you know, it's still a great quality, you know, platinum PSU that you have in there. So let's go ahead and maybe leave it on. What do you guys think? Maybe we'll leave it on this shot right here. Yeah, let's go. Actually, I think I like the other one more. Let's go with that shot right there while we bring up his submission form. Joseph says the color sync came out really cool. He's digging the cabling. Yeah, I think the cabling, especially with streamers, I'm actually a fan normally of non-streamer cables. But I think that here he balanced it out pretty well to kind of align with the RGB theme, so it works out pretty well. So let's go ahead and take a look here. So this is going to be, does the build have a theme? RG and Elden Ring. 3 words to describe the build: beast, beauty, and beefy. And then build of Mikila. And then in terms of hardware, we've got a 10900K in here, overclocked to 5.3 gigahertz across all cores. Then we've got, let's see, overclocked memory that he's running in the configuration, 4000 MT. That's pretty sweet in there, also on that platform. And then he's got, actually, yeah, Maximus, excuse me. Yeah, it's a Maximus Z490 Extreme board, Maximus 12 Extreme. ROG Strix 3080 graphics card, a Ryujin 2 360. These got 2 1 terabyte PM981s in terms of the SSDs, 1200 watt power supply. He's got the streamer cables in there. And then he has a mix of some Thermaltake turbostatic pressure fans and then Cooler Master SF120 fans in there, and Sickle Flow fans. Yep. And then that's all inside of a Cooler Master half 700 Evo. Total budget was about $4,500. He was most proud of actually just the ROG kind of integration and the experience of the theme. And I think he did a fantastic job. It's a great showcase of ROG hardware. Anything you would change about the build? Maybe go with a custom loop. I don't think a custom loop is required. I mean, you got great performance, good temperatures right now, but of course, that could be interesting. Maybe a little bit better cable management in terms of the back, but again, you don't see it, so I wouldn't be super worried about it. Altogether, to get all the parts and get everything complete and built took him about 6 months worth of time. It's pretty much a gaming build, so Elden Ring, Ark Survival, Dark Souls 3. And he's a really big fan of our fan control software. So being able to go ahead and kind of tweak and tune and calibrate all the fans, right? Overall, man, nice, clean, solid build. Neil says gives us a very nice and clean looking, and I definitely agree, man. Thumbs up. Well done. All right, let's go ahead and jump into our next build here. Let me see here. Okay. Oh, here we've got another, we've got a cool mod. This is going to be from, I believe, Patrick. Is that correct? Yep. So this is going to be an EVA 01 from Patrick. This is going to be definitely a cool mod that we've got for this. So let's go ahead and take a look here. All right. So right off the bat, we can definitely see that we've got some really cool modding at play here, mirroring, of course, the fantastic, series and animation that we've got here for those fans that are, of course, familiar with this IP. And maybe watch out in the not too distant future. Maybe we'll have some cool stuff coming out with this IP. I don't know. Teaser. All right. So here we can see some really cool kind of detail work that's been done. I'm loving the actual color scheme. I love how we have a little bit of accent lighting here at the front to actually give you that little bit of the mech vibes. We got the fans at play right here, some little accent lighting. We have a display, some cool customization in terms of just the accent lettering that's also going on in here. So theme execution is really on point. And this is a really great shot of kind of giving you that whole vibe where you got definitely a mecha type vibe to it. I'm really liking the feel. You got some really interesting things in terms of some of the run and layout there for the actual water cooling setup, where you can see we've got our res, we've got our cabling going up here, dropping down, going into the board. This is cool. It's definitely a very cool kind of theme and vibe. And the UV definitely gives it a different kind of vibe and setup. Got a Prime Series board. Always a fan to see the nice Prime Series where you got a nice base in the black, but you got silver and white, which I think works well here. UV accent on the cables, which is also pretty cool. Oh, and here we go. Like, so we can actually see before and after. So that's pretty cool. Hey, Mr. Perez, I'll take a look at that question there in a second. Oh, this is really, really cool. I love seeing this kind of before and after experience. So really nice to be able to see how he went and kind of got everything primed down, stripped, and then of course he went through the painting process to get all the colors into play to be able to go ahead and end up with the final color scheme. Added in your nice little secondary display right there, which is pretty cool. It looks like he's got a stat panel right there with some readout information. And then here we have it all lit up, looking pretty slick. Yeah, that's pretty cool. It definitely is pretty cool. I'm wondering, it's interesting here with the dual GPU setup, right? So I'm wondering what he's doing that would benefit from the dual GPUs, because I almost feel like it could look a little bit stronger having this space not be obstructed, and then having that GPU in there by itself, and then having the white accent and that RGB a little bit more visible there. But this definitely has like kind of a cool kind of mech kind of vibe stacked feel in there with the dual GPU. And then we've got some kind of runs that are interesting here, kind of going up and then into this. So some interesting placement options right here. Maybe would have maybe tweaked this just a little bit, but overall, really cool, really creative kind of layout and kind of overall theme and execution. Oh, I love this. I love the work to be able to actually take this through and color the actual grills and give you kind of this really kind of cool vibe to it as well. Theme cohesion is really on point. I'm a big fan of this. Overall, I think a very, very cool mod and build here. I don't even know where to leave it. I really love this work right here. This is really, really cool. I wonder how long it took him to get all this done. All right, let's go ahead and Evo says this may be the best PC I've seen all year. Michael gives a nice note for some nice bends. It's for the style, man. It's for the style, right? Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and take a look right here and take a look at the submission form. So this is from Patrick, and this is going to be, of course, EVA 01. 3 words to describe the real EVA build. It makes sense. EVA 01 unit. This is all based on a Prime Z590 board. And then, excuse me, well, I can't, is that right? No, actually, this should be a Prime X570 Prime board. And then it's a Ryzen 7 5800X, then an RTX 3090, and then an ASUS 3090 EKWB card. Oh, that's cool. Those are pretty rare. We no longer produce those. Then he's got the NVLink in there, so it's running 3090. So that makes sense that you're running actually NVLink because it's two 3090 cards. We're then running, let's see, some 3600 CL16 memory. Got a 512 gigabyte SSD in there as well. 1,000-watt power supply. In terms of the water cooling, it's a Bi-Ski full coverage RGB that is in there. So that's also giving us some temperature readout information. The GPU. Oh, excuse me. That's for the GPU, probably for the Founders Edition. And then we have the EKWB block, which is going to be on the ASUS secondary card. A Barrow RGB water block for the AM4 for the CPU. So that's going to be the Barrow block right there. And then it looks like a couple of RADs. So a 240 and a 360 RAD and a Black Nemesis. Actually, 3 RADs in there. So a total of 3 RADs. PETG, hard tubing, that's in there. Along with some EK and Barrow fittings. He's got a flex meter in there as well from Bi-Ski, Alpha Cool Right Reservoir, and then the 5-screen HDMI, which is also a touch screen. That's pretty cool. And then Deep Cool 120 RGB, along with, I think, another set of ARGB fans that he has in there. Around $8,500 was the total budget. He's just most proud of just being able to achieve kind of the theme, being the EVA 01 mod that he wanted to be able to do, and really actually have it look like it was derived from the original kind of design and concept, right, by Shinji, which I agree. I think it's beautiful in that regard, and there's a lot of homage in terms of the color scheme, the design aesthetic, the iconography, the kind of the overall feel. It really, really aligns with that. So that's pretty sweet right here. Anything you'd like to change? Maybe upgrade to a 5950 from a CPU. I don't know if that, unless you can really use that, I don't know that you need to upgrade to that, but that would definitely take it even to a higher level, right? But 2 weeks. Wow, only 2 weeks to put it together, including the modding. Impressive. Does a lot of gaming on here. So Resident Evil Saga, Ghostwire Tokyo, and then Demon Slayer. He's really a big fan of the ASUS BIOS UEFI experience in terms of kind of the tweaking, tuning, and the control options. Overall, man, Patrick, thumbs up. Very, very cool build. I really like the way this turned out, and I would agree. Definitely one of my favorite kind of thematic builds that I've seen in terms of kind of hitting the point of inspiration really on the head. So overall, very, very cool. All right, now let's go ahead and take a look at our next build here. All right, getting ready to kind of go in the opposite direction, but still in the mecha vibe. We have it here from Mr. Ben. So we have our Gundam set up. So if you guys have been part of our ASUS PCDIY community, you know Ben has been busy amassing, the Gundam hardware to be able to get together some pretty cool Gundam builds. And he started off first with the White Gundam series, right, which I think was for his wife, and then he's now followed it up with the secondary one, which is in the Zaku. So he's got the Zaku and he has the RX, so he has both of the Gundam based builds. So pretty sweet. So let's go ahead and take a look right here and see what we've got going on. So okay, so here he's got the Helios chassis, nice clean cable management. I'm liking that. That's very nicely done. And also nice clean cable management in the GT301, which is it's a much smaller chassis. So a lot less work a lot more work in terms of getting that worked in there, but nicely done. Still a good amount of cavity space in there to be able to play around if you want some more flexibility. He's got his little kind of fans and daisy chain links up in there. He's also using the integrated kind of hub splitter. Oh, and here we go. There we go. Sweet right here. I wish the saturation was a little bit better here so you could see that, but beautifully done right here. So this is a great shot, right, of being able to let us see kind of the full systems on display. So here we have the full kind of RX Gundam experience, beautifully done in here with the custom cables that he did right here for the actual power supply. We've got the Helios. We've got the motherboard that's in there. This is the Gundam edition peripheral set and the monitor and even the cup holder. I love that he actually added in right there the Gundam mech, right? We've got the Throne Gundam edition, the Delta Gundam edition, another, of course, RX mech right there, the Zaku mech, and then he added in the TUF Gaming accessories, which are really nice to kind of complementary tie this all in together. So he's got the TUF Gaming H3, I think, headset right here. Really nice headset for the money. TUF Gaming monitor. And then he went with a TUF Gaming keyboard, and then he got custom keycaps that are Zaku-based keycaps that he went ahead and put it in there. And then here he's got the Zaku-based motherboard, and then I think he went with a TUF Gaming-based graphics card, which made more sense in terms of kind of the performance. But overall, really nicely, cleanly done. Thematically, of course, it looks great because, of course, we partnered with Sunrise to be able to design all of this and have it be kind of harmonious between ASUS ID and then bringing in the Gundam IP. And I think it looks fantastic. Absolutely love this cooler, the RX cooler. It looks so cool. I wanted to pick up one of these, and I couldn't because I didn't want to kind of take the chance from anybody picking any one of them up in the community. And the peripherals, I'm tempted to pick one up. And I'll tell you guys right now, we're absolutely sold out of all the Gundam Edition hardware. We are only going to get a restock of the peripherals, and we just restocked these right now, limited edition. If anybody still wants to pick up the Gundam peripherals, we're not getting anything else in, but we just got these back in stock in Newegg. And if you want to pick them up, do it right now, because when it's gone forever. All right. So right here, here's the Zaku. Love the way that the actual TUF Gaming card looks in there, especially just with the little red accent right there. I love the little brace attachment design that he put in there. Just give it a little bit of that consistent red vibe to go from here at the bottom to the holder to then, of course, the red. And I absolutely love the Zaku cooler. It looks so cool in there. And then he's even using, of course, the TUF Gaming headphone holder that's on that GT301. Really, really cool setup. I mean, they both look fantastic, especially being able to see them side by side, right? The RX and the Zaku. Beautiful setups. Really, really cool. I really dig in here. Oh, here's the dark color experience, and I think it looks really, really cool. I don't even know where to leave it. Maybe there. It's so hard because I'm going to leave it on the Zaku because I think the Zaku looks pretty sick. Right. So let's go with the Zaku. Oh, here we go. Of course. Hey, thanks for joining us here, Ben. Amiel says that's really impressive. These are both really well themed and incredibly clean. I would 100% agree. I think his execution was on point. You can definitely see that he had a commitment to want to be able to do it really nicely, really clean in terms of the overall kind of layout and the overall aesthetic. And even the little subtle things with the cabling, getting it everything to where it's all spaced out, it's breathed well, the looping for the cables right here. All of those things are done really, really balanced to be able to kind of give you a cohesive kind of look and feel that I think looks great. Let me bring up the submission form here. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look right here. So you can also check out Ben right now on Instagram if you guys want. He recently launched on Instagram, so that's going to be a. Let me go ahead and link that for you guys if you guys are interested. Okay, so let's go ahead and see right here. Does the build have a theme? Yes, of course, ASUS and Gundam. 3 words to describe the build: Ultimate Gundam Setup. I think this is definitely an Ultimate class Gundam setup, especially because he didn't just do one, he did both of them, right? Does the build have a name? Gundam, right? And in terms of the RX78 build, right, that's going to be an 11700K with an LC360, the Gundam Edition. The Gundam Edition motherboard, of course, the Z590 board. He then had, let's see, 32 gigabytes of memory in the RX system, then a 980 1 terabyte, and a Rocket Q2 terabyte, so 3 terabytes there in terms of M.2 SSD storage. The 3080 Gundam Edition graphics card, 850 watt Gundam Edition, of course. Power supply, the Gundam Edition Helios. He then has a range of additional fans that he put in there: 3 Noctua NF-A14s, Chromax Blacks, right? And then Cooler Master MF140 Helios. That's going to be the exhaust to give you a little bit of RGB pop. The Gundam Edition XG27 monitor, and then, of course, all the peripherals that you saw, which were also Gundam Edition. The Zaku 2 build is a 5600X with an LC240 TUF Gaming Edition, but it's the Zaku Edition, right? The TUF Gaming B550-M Wi-Fi board, then 32 gigabytes of memory, CL16, a 981 terabyte drive, a 3070 Ti TUF Gaming card, 750 watt power supply, and that's all inside of the 301 Zaku Edition power, chassis. He's then for the fans, those are the MF120s from Cooler Master. And then for the monitor, it's also the Zaku Edition monitor. So that's the VG27AQL1A. Great monitors, 2560 by 1440 IPS, bold, bright, really nice design. TUF Gaming K3 keyboard with Zaku keycaps. And then the TUF Gaming M4 wireless, that's our new lightweight wireless mouse in the TUF Gaming lineup, a P1 mouse pad, and then TUF Gaming H3 headset. All together, everything combined, $8,500. But those are 2 fantastic systems, great for kind of really every type of scenario, gaming to general desktop usage. They look cool, they're distinct, cleanly well laid out, nicely done. Being able to have the complete setup of both Gundam PCs, both setups, I modified the GPU power supply cables so that essentially they would look clean, right? And then also that, and essentially not have the daisy chain, right? And that makes sense so that they essentially are just one clean cable, right? And that's definitely, I know, was one of the points of kind of feedback on the RG Strix power supplies because of the way that the cables are needed, that you would have to use dual pins, which had the daisy chain connection, right? Or what's called, not daisy chain, but pigtail, excuse me. Anything you would change about the build? The only thing I would change on the build is the CPU for the Zaku 2, maybe changing it from the 5600X to 5700X to better match up with the 3070 Ti. I don't know you have to do that. I mean, especially with 5600X, you could do PBO with the curve optimizer and get really nice performance out of that part. But, you know, sure, if you really need the extra cores, I guess, but I think it's overall works well. About 15 hours worth of work. The RX78 is the wife's gaming PC build, and the Zaku 2 build is just something that you want to be able to go ahead and match the 2 of them together to be able to have both of these. He's really happy with just the way everything turned out. Ben, hats off, man, on your commitment to be able to go ahead and put these all together. Really, really cool. Fantastic builds. Very, very cool, guys. All right, so let's go ahead and go over to our next build here. And this is going to be from a first-time builder, Breezy B, over here. she had a really cool build. I love the way it kind of turned out. It's just bold, it's bright, it's a little bit playful, but it's clean and it's well executed. And for a first time build, I'm always happy to be able to see somebody be able to go ahead and get into the PC DIY scene, right? And, you know, be able to have a cool build like this that they can call their own. So let's go ahead and check her build out here. Nesku's box. All right. So we can see right off the bat, we've got something here with the Prime X570. So we know we've got an AMD system right here. She added in some actually nice little accents right here with the RGB. Normally, we see a lot of people use the streamers, and actually these are kind of a little bit more playful. I've seen CEC, Critical Error Computing, use a lot of these in their builds, and I think actually they're kind of interesting. Add a little bit of RGB flare right here with actually an RGB M.2 SSD. We got that clean look there with the Founders Edition card. And then here, the RGB display. For a first-time build, this is really well actually done. I mean, clean layout. She went with the, I feel, the optimal positioning for the actual radiator. It's got a cool look here with the actual, I believe this is from ID Cooling in terms of their actual AIO. You got the little RGB accents right here on the actual cables right there, and nicely done, even managing that, you know, the Founders Edition card doesn't really have that great of the PCI power placement, so that kind of swoops in over right here, and I think this works well to give her the little bit of lighting that she wanted to have. Then we have a little bit of an arch right here. We've got our fan set up, a little bit of accent lighting. I like that she went with a diffuse strip as opposed to with LEDs, so you don't get the harsh bright lights, but we get a little bit of that kind of more diffuse soft lighting that goes thematically with the look and feel for the system. And it's got this just nice soft white, right? The white gives you that more reflection, a little bit more playful kind of vibe to it that I think looks cool, bright, and well laid out. And then here, cable management, it's all done, works well. It's cleanly laid out right here. Even look at this, nice attention to detail. Where it's something I probably wouldn't even done right here, but strip this down here with some zip ties to the chassis, routed that all up right there, going into the extensions. That's nicely done right there. Here, this is really kind of packed in, but again, it makes sense in terms of kind of just the amount of space that you have in the back. Normally, I like to try to split a little bit so I know where some of my cables are, but it's not that critical. At the end of the day, all it works. And if you're not going to change anything out, the only negative that you might have here is you didn't leave yourself maybe a little bit of an exposed cable if you maybe have an upgrade or something that you add in. But probably most of what you would change, you wouldn't really need access to cable. So I don't think that it's a loss. And ultimately, this is cleanly done. So it works. Here we can see a shot there without the actual lighting. And let's go back to, I think, yeah, this shot. Yeah, let's go back to this shot right here. I like the way this shot looks right here. So let's go ahead and take a look here at the submission form. So Breezy Bree was actually her first build, so kudos. The build have a theme, yes, pastel and RGB. 3 words to describe the build: quick, quiet, and quality. I would agree. This is going to be a quiet system. It's going to definitely be fast, and it's quality in terms of the not only the hardware that you went with, but the overall layout. It's nicely, cleanly done in terms of the overall layout. Very actually high-end system. Went with a 5950X on there that's running on the Prime X570 board, and then has a 3080 Ti. So this is actually a monster system. You know, subtle there, but definitely a lot of performance in here. So I'm wondering if maybe also with such a high-end CPU and GPU, maybe doing some streaming, maybe doing some video work or some other things in there. If not, just definitely cranking out some frame rates. So hopefully you've got a high refresh rate monitor. About $4,000 in terms of the overall budget for the build. Most proud of the fact that everything functions, right? Considering that it was first build and taught herself. Yeah, I mean, that's always the most kind of proud feeling, right? To hit the button and just know that everything is working okay. Would anything like to change about the build? Maybe actually going into a custom water loop? Yeah, I mean, you could. I mean, I don't think you necessarily need it, but with the 5950X, you could definitely benefit from even going a little bit lower temperatures, especially if you're heavily hitting the CPU a lot, right? And definitely if you went with a block on this card, it could look pretty slick with a nice clean block in that single slot. You'd even see a little bit more of that visibility for that white section right there, get a little bit more of that lighting. This is a cool design, though, that you have set up right here, so you'd have to account for that. But yeah, this could look pretty cool. You wouldn't necessarily see a massive uplift in performance, but it would definitely be lower in terms of temps and look pretty cool. System is, yeah, definitely used for streaming, Photoshop, gaming, so Smite, Tarkov, Apex, Back 4 Blood, GTA. Okay. Definitely a lot of CPU there for there, but it makes sense if you're using it for streaming and you're also doing the encoding on the CPU as opposed to on the GPU. But if you were doing it on the GPU, definitely wouldn't need as powerful as a CPU. Overall, was really just happy to be able to use a really solid board like the Prime X570. It was very beginner friendly, clearly labeled, and both lights help to diagnose actually some of the connections. She's talking about the QLED lighting, which you can see right there. There's the actual little light right there on the corner. Plus was happy with just all the extra ports and the connections, making everything easy to work with. Overall, it's nice, it's clean, it's well executed, and I'm happy with it. Yeah, Evo says impressive, gorgeous, everything functions is well laid out. Hey, Rick Starr, thanks for joining us all the way from Australia, man. Happy to have you here. Thank you so much. Really likes the color theme. Michael also is happy of it right here. So very, very cool. Yeah, that thumbs up, man. Great job. All right, so I think we've got one more build here that we're probably going to get to before we got to wrap things up, guys. I actually had more submissions than I could get through, so don't worry if I didn't get into your build this week. We're definitely going to jump into it next week. So let me go ahead and get into here. I think we've got one from Everin. Yeah, let's go ahead and go with Project Chromium. We'll wrap it out with a pretty sweet water-cooled build, I believe, here. All right. All right, so let's take a look and see what we've got right here with Project Chromium. Oh, right off the bat, you can tell this is going to be serious, right? We've got that black, we've got that chrome accents, and even the selection right here to go with this kind of layout here for the DRAM, going with this nice black ballistic max memory. I know this is going to be a serious looking build. Oh, that's pretty nice. That's pretty nice. Not always the biggest fan, again, of vertical, but you know, we've seen a couple of builds here today with vertical that have looked fantastic. Here, you know, you definitely have kind of changed up some of the aesthetic of the system, but I think cohesiveness in terms of a aesthetic from going from top to bottom, it's been designed to have a specific look and feel. And I love the aesthetic that's pulled off with the black here, tying with the black here. And then just this triple kind of flow vibe that we have there from the top, going from the black block to the two chrome hardline points to then your hardline point that's on there. And then this all kind of playing out and going into the distro here, and then some just nice smooth bends right here that are really, really nicely done. So again, not always the biggest fan of a vertical, but I love the way that this actual turned out. And I think, again, my favorite implementation for vertical is when they have a thematic feel to them, as opposed to kind of just forcing it there and taking away from the aesthetic that exists on the board. I mean, here we're reinforcing an entire look and feel that you have in the system, which I really like the way that this turned out. So really, really nicely done, very clean, very well executed. Some serious cooling performance here too, as we can see with one radiator here, and then we've got another radiator right here. We've got, of course, Uni fans, some really nice runs and bends right here that look beautiful, and very, very nice clean cable management. So here we can see a nice shot. That looks absolutely gorgeous right there. And that's in that kind of direct side profile shot. I think that looks really, really cool and shows you, I think, a strength to see that the ID was really purposely designed with having a vertical design aesthetic and having cohesive feel. So normally that's what I feel sometimes gets lost in that vertical design, is that when you drop in the vertical, it blocks off some of the design that you would have on the board, giving you a little bit more depth and contrast. But here, I feel like the look that you would want to intend is really actually best represented in this way. So really, really nicely done. And even the implementation, where I'm not always the biggest fan of these kind of flow meters, because the motherboard actually has built-in flow monitoring, so you could use the motherboard's readout functionality for that. This even kind of, I think, adds to a kind of complementary look right there that looks really, really clean. Oh, of course, we got the Aqua Computer Aqua Bus, a fantastic accessory right there. And lets you know that you're serious about, of course, your water cooling. Beautiful shot right here with just these super nice bends. These are beautifully done, really clean, really nice and tight. Some nice kind of angular fittings to give you a little bit of an offset nature right there as well. This is really, really nicely done. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and leave it on that shot because I think that's maybe one of my favorite shots right there. Let's see a little bit of just some of the feedback right here. Almost industrial feel. I definitely think, yeah, it's got an industrial, but premium feel, because you generally won't necessarily see kind of those chrome pieces right there. Emil says, very nice system build. He loves the chrome pipe look. Let's see, the black and silver is a great looking combination. Sweet build, right? Shiny, right? I think overall, really, really cool. So let's go ahead and let me take here a look at his submission form. So this is going to be from Avram. Also, you can find him at 6speed only on Instagram. Wow, he says this was the first build. Well, this is the first build. Wow, my hat's off come to you. Fantastic. You guys, Breezy B and you guys are killing it on first builds. This is a fantastic build for a first build. 3 words to describe the build: industrial, monochromatic, and clean. Project Chromium. Let me go ahead and take a look here at some of the core build specifications. So this is all inside of Lan 011. XL edition 5950X, a crosshair Dark Hero. We've got DDR4 4400 CL19 running in there, 32 gigabytes of that Ballistic Max RAM, a 3090 OC with, of course, that water block on there, all powered from a 1600 watt power supply. He's got a 2 terabyte and a 4 terabyte set of M.2 based SSDs in there. He's got, of course, the vertical GPU bracket from Lan Li, modified to be able to fit 3 slots. Then using a riser cable, the link up PCI Express Gen 4 riser cable, and then MDPC X carbon BTI cables. Absolute stunning cables from our friends over at MDPC, right? Lan Li Unifans, the SL120s. Aqua Computer Octo in there, and then customization all through, of course, the bottom radiator with the AQ5321. Then using Unifan control to be able to go ahead and get that all in sync, which can, of course, also interface with our boards. He's got an internal NZXT USB hub in there, and then fan metal logo covers. Oh, interesting. You can barely notice those, but that's pretty sweet in there as well. Then using, of course, the pump from Aqua Computer is a D5 Nex. Flow indicators also an Aqua Computer. And then he's also using a temperature sensor position near the GPU backplate, which ties into the Aqua Computer as well. Distro plate is custom. It's a WV Mech Dynamic XL D5 that's in there. And then the block is from those fantastic US-made blocks from Optimus in there. Thermal Grizzly. And Optimus also 3090 block in there, which also is what really gives it that really unique aesthetic. And this right here, what really gives it the cool aesthetic is, you'll see, is that it's the matte black Cerakote with a black gasket, which gives it that really beautiful look, right? Which is what I think makes it feel so different than so many different builds where you would have normally kind of the lighting and everything kind of playing on with that. It's a clear coolant that's in there. It's got some bits power fittings that we also have in there, mixed with a few other items in there. And let's see, temps under load max out at 65C, and GPU is at 39C. So very, very impressive in terms of the overall kind of fit, finish, and execution. $5,000 cost for the actual overall budget. Definitely most proud of the Optimus GPU water block, which I think looks stunning. I would agree with that. May want to look into a dual D5 pump solution in the future. Interesting. Took about 1.5 years as far as collecting all the parts and then putting together the system. So that's definitely understandable in terms of just the time saving, especially coming out of the pandemic, being able to get all the components all together. It's used for work and gaming, Cyberpunk, Forza, iRacing, God of War, EVE Online, so a little bit of everything. One of his favorite ASUS features is dynamic OC switcher with the Dark Hero board. Absolutely loves that flexibility at being able to kind of tweak and tune and overclock, not only, of course, with single core, but all core, and giving you that PBO flexibility as well. He loves the USB BIOS flashback feature as well on the board, and overall kind of just the tweaking and tuning functionality that an ROG class board gives you. Man, Everin, hats off. This is a fantastic build. Very, very cool. Impressive. Yeah. Overall, some fantastic builds. All right, guys, that wraps up our stream for this week. Didn't get to all of our PCDIY builder spotlight, but if you guys are interested in submitting your build, make sure to go ahead and join our PCDIY group. Submit your build so you can have it featured. We've got more builds that, of course, we're going to be featuring in next week's PCDIY live stream, and as always, answering your guys' questions. So with that, guys, take care, take it easy, enjoy the rest of your day. Have a fantastic weekend. Stay safe, stay healthy. And if you're building, upgrading, overclocking, modding, whatever it is, best of luck with it. Take care and take it easy.